Oh, what's going on, guys? Gamer Dude back once again, bringing you some more informative gaming news. But before we begin, y'all know the routine, or at least I hope you do by now. If you are new to the channel, please make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe, because it would just be your good deed of the day. Same applies if you are a returning viewer. Now then, we are talking about God of War today, or rather, a potential sequel. Yes, rumours are all over the internet at the moment about Santa Monica's next God of War game. However, it may not be as big of a game as we're expecting. And in this video, I'm going to break down everything I've found about this, everything regarding the rumour, and we're going to talk about it in general. So, let's get right into things. Now, of course, some rumours are quite bad. Example, Naughty Dog remastering The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, we don't want another remaster, Naughty Dog. You've already remastered The Last of Us twice. We don't need you to do it again with The Last of Us Part 2. We want a new game. And on the other hand, some rumours are significantly better. Take this one, for example, which claims that Santa Monica Studios may indeed be working on a smaller adventure game in the God of War universe. Now, this game will be similar to what Insomniac have done with Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. This seems to be the trend with Sony these days, releasing these little tie-in games as separate games in general. You know, they did it with Spider-Man, they've done it with Horizon Forbidden West, and stands to reason they're going to keep on doing it because it sells, you know, whatever makes the most money for them, right? Anyway, this rumor started because of a recent conversation about half games. These games, you know, come in a variety of forms. Take Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, for example. Now, a Twitter user by the name of Viewer Anon chimed in to talk about Ragnarok getting a potential DLC or half sequel in future. Many believe this would be a story about Atreus specifically, in the vein of, you know, in the style or vein of Uncharted Lost Legacy or something like Spider-Man Miles Morales. A concept which has worked extremely well for Sony with two of its biggest franchises, as we've already seen. Now, an Atreus game definitely makes a lot of sense after the ending of God of War Ragnarok. Now, it makes sense both narratively and gameplay-wise. God of War had large sections of the game where you played as Atreus, as a bow main, as it were, with bonus mystical powers including actually transforming himself into a bear and a wolf. He is Loki, after all, capable of all sorts of tricks and spells, so much of that gameplay for the character has already been created. And all they would have to do is expand upon this. Now, I think this would be brilliant. You know, although it would be like in the God of War like style, it would kind of feel like a low-key Marvel game if you think about it. You know, I'm not trying to push this as being like, oh, it's just going to be a copy of a Marvel thing. No. The God of War series, of course, has its own tone, and it's completely different to the Marvel gaming world and the Marvel characters. But you got to think about it. You know, this is still Loki. He's got a tricky sense of humor in whatever lore you think of him in. You know, whether it be Marvel or old official Norse mythology. Loki always has a devious sense of humor, and we haven't seen that yet. You know, we've seen Loki being a little bit devious in the God of War games. You know, we've seen him being mischievous and disobedient, but we haven't actually seen his true mischievous, jokey nature. And that would be something that they could really expand upon in an Atreus standalone game. Now, one thing that's got people troubled is what would they actually call this game? Because they can't call it God of War Atreus, because, you know, Atreus isn't the God of War, and if the God of War's not going to be in it, then they can't call it God of War. So what would they call it? Atreus? Just Atreus? Or Loki? Or God of War series Atreus? I don't know. I mean, when it comes to things like Uncharted, Yeah, you can keep the name because the characters are the same. And, there's references to the previous characters. Same with Spider-Man Miles Morales. He's still Spider-Man, it's just Miles Morales. You can't really do a play on words with the God of War series when it comes to Atreus because he is not the God of War. So maybe Loki, God of Mischief? Okay, that's it. I'm patenting that. That is the title. If they make it and they call it that, I want royalties. I came up with it. I said it first. Me. Pay me. Anyway, moving on. Past all that, God of War Ragnarok ended with potential spoilers here if you haven't played it, by the way. Atreus splitting off from Kratos in order to explore lands outside the Nine Realms. Now, specifically, that says lands, meaning Atreus could find himself going back to Kratos' homeland of Greece. I would love to see that. I would love to see Atreus go and see Greece. Maybe it's still in ruins and he's like, oh my god, my dad did this. What was I spawned from? Or maybe Greece is being rebuilt, and in the next game, Kratos comes back, and Atreus comes home to speak to Kratos, and he's like, look, father, you can go home. There's statues of you all over the place. They worship you. You liberated them. You saved them after basically committing genocide. But he saved them. That would be a nice little twist if Atreus came back and told Kratos that his homeland actually wants him there. The statues of him, they worship him. They wish he was there as an active part of their lives. I would love to see that. And the Atreus game, if they do it, could be based around that. You're as Atreus exploring this new Greece, finding out things about Kratos, how they've got their own myths and legends about him, exploring all the areas. You're picking up little artifacts that Kratos left behind, maybe a piece of his armor or an old piece of his weapon, something like that. That would be incredible. And of course, they don't have to leave it there. They can expand into other areas, like how in the first two games we've got exploring the different realms. They could do that in a similar way here. Like, yes, you explore Greece, but you can also explore Egypt. Now imagine that, because Egypt also has its own gods. So that could be a new game entirely. Like, Atreus comes back, tells Kratos all these wonderful things about Greece, and then tells him about this threat of Egypt. How these gods of Egypt now think, they're the dominant force of the planet. They think they're the center of the universe. And that they're planning to, overthrow every other civilization on the planet. And then that brings us to the next God of War game where Kratos has to fight them. Like Kratos' last bout, that would be a beautiful send-off for Kratos. Not saying Ragnarok wasn't a beautiful send-off for Kratos, but I think that would be just an even more beautiful send-off for Kratos. It would just be, Again, if they do that, then I said it first, it's mine. I want royalties for it. But yeah, it does seem logical that this game could be the events of that adventure, and that perhaps it would eventually lead to Atreus coming back to Kratos for the next full God of War game in, however many years that is going to come out, or however many years takes place between the gaps of the games. If it's anything going off Miles Morales, it be a couple of years. If they do release the spin-off game Atreus, then it'll be a couple of years before we see the next one. Possibly maybe 2027, 2028. Depends, because they could be working on both simultaneously, because people forget that development teams have two separate teams working on things. They've got Team A working on the main stuff, and Team B working on the side stuff. People seem to forget that. Anyway, the Norse saga for Kratos has confirmed to have ended, over these two games. And it appears the next journey would throw him into a different realm. Of course it would. Like I said, maybe Egypt with an entirely new set of gods. I do wonder, though, if the game, of course, would dive into different mythologies, because there's not just Greece. There's not just Greek mythology. There's different mythologies all over the planet. There's Japanese mythology, which I suppose Ghost of Tsushima's dove into a little bit. There's Islamic mythology, and their gods. There's Hindu mythology and their god. There's there's tons. There's a list as long as my arm. I can't go through them all. I will be here all day. But yeah, I think the general idea is that most players would rather continue to play content in this specific universe, even at maybe a lesser scale. Even if it returns to the original roots of God of War. Instead of being this big open world section where you can go to all these different realms, it's in a set area. You get to explore this set area. You do a set series of tasks in this area, then you fight a big boss, and it's kind of just jumping in and fighting instead of being all over the place. You know what I mean? If you played the original God of War games, you know exactly what I'm talking about there. But yeah, think about Lost Legacy and Miles Morales. They were very well received. Miles Morales specifically grew Spider-Man's storyline to the point where both characters are now playable and co-star in the sequel game due out in less than 2 weeks. So these kind of games can actually significantly benefit future full projects as well. And then again, they can also fail. I bring myself back to Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. While Uncharted 4 ended Nathan Drake's storyline, Lost Legacy was supposed to expand upon the side characters. So his brother Sam, Chloe Frazier, Sully, and we expected more games to be released after that, set with those particular characters. But Naughty Dog have said, I don't know if they were BSing here, but Naughty Dog have said in an official statement that they are done with the Uncharted series. Now, whether that means they're done with this particular series and they're just going to reboot it at a later date, I don't know. But I digress. We're getting off topic. But yeah, I must say, I'm not a fan of infinitely remastering older projects. In fact, I've voiced my opinion on it several times on this channel. If a game's remastered once, okay, I'll get it. If it's remastered a third time, or if it's brought out a third time, so you've got the original game, the remaster, and then brought out a third time, I refuse to get it. Take The Last of Us, for example. Beautiful game, no doubt about it. Incredible story, beautiful characters, beautiful character development. But it's been released 3 times now. I've played it twice. I don't want it a third time. Same with Grand Theft Auto 5. Played it twice. The online aspect of it's been going for 10 years. I don't want to play it anymore. I know I dug into this when I did my Spider-Man 2 video, but I want something different, I want something new when it comes to that. But yeah, I must say, I am definitely a fan of these cheaper, smaller scale, yet high quality half games, as they've been dubbed, that Sony has been making. And I hope this Atreus one does become a reality. Once again, Loki, God of Mischief. That's what it needs to be called. I know some people will be like, well, hang on a minute, that's basically just a Marvel title. Well, still, they can't call it God of War Atreus or God of War Loki, because the God of War won't be in this game. It's specifically, supposedly, that is, centered around Loki. So they have to call it something from Loki. Or from the lore of Loki, that is. So Loki, God of Mischief, is a decent title for a game like this. And once again, it's going to be one of those, half games, as it's been dubbed. But yeah, that's about it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Once again, stay tuned for future content from me. There's plenty coming in the coming weeks, especially stay tuned for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, because I have the collector's edition, so I will be doing an unboxing video on the channel. So stay tuned for that. I love doing unboxing videos on the channel, and the gameplay will follow. Plenty of other stuff coming as well, definitely more informative gaming news videos. Do a couple more live streams before Spider-Man releases. So just stay tuned. I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, that's it then. Thank you all once again for stopping by. I do appreciate it. This has been Gamer Dude. Happy gaming, and I will catch you all in the next one, guys.